just want to thank you so much for this man that I get to call my friend, Father, that you gave him such an extraordinarily creative and beautiful mind, and that he really can capture people's attention and really have such an influence over them, Lord. Help him to really use that for the work of the kingdom, because you brought him into it. You choose us. So, Father, I just want to thank you. Help him to have peace in his mind as he's sharing his story. And Lord, I know this is going to change somebody's life here. And everything that we hear, help us to share it outside of these walls. Thank you so much, Father. Bless him and give him an anointing. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Jesse, what's your last name?
Fry. So, am I starting right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my name's Jesse Fry. I didn't really prepare a lot for this. I've never been a person to prepare that much. So, I'm drinking a generic Mountain Dew right now. A couple years ago, it would have been a beer. I had really bad anxiety. I still have a little bit, but it's gone away a lot ever since I quit drinking. I was drinking every single day for a few years or so. And I couldn't really talk to people without drinking. I guess I've overcome that, it looks like, a little bit. I've changed a lot. Back in the day, before I came here, actually, I was traveling, riding freight trains and stuff around the country. I wasn't religious at all. I had no religion back then. So I'd go from state to state and town to town, play my guitar for beer money and cigarette money. That's really all I needed. A lot of people talk about, how terrible everything was for them back in the day. But for me, it wasn't that bad. I had a lot of fun, and I thought that I was living the life I wanted to live and doing everything I wanted to do. I thought I had it made, no responsibilities, no bills, just playing music, and that's it. I'm really glad I changed. Things are a lot better now. I had a lot of fun back in the day, but there was definitely something missing, but I didn't realize it, So it's not always like a terrible, horrible life, and you don't always realize what you're missing, before you come to the Lord. But once you do, you kind of you figure it out. So life's really good now. Let's see, I guess I should talk a little bit more about the lifestyle too. There's a lot of people that are out there riding freight trains. A lot of people don't really realize it, but it's a big subculture. And everybody's, drinking and a lot worse too. I was really lucky because I also had really bad anxiety problems, but that kind of prevented me from doing drugs. A lot of my friends, there's some little ears in here, but they did a lot worse than just drink, stuff that they might not wake up the next day after they fall asleep, Lost a lot of friends out there like that. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, and I've definitely had a lot more traveling friends pass away than people I know from the Marine Corps. I'm saying a lot. It's a nervous thing, I guess I do.
We all do that.
But, I traveled around with a lot of different people, got to meet a lot of different kinds of people out there. And I wasn't a terrible person before I found the Lord either, A lot of people think, everybody that doesn't know God gonna be like really morally, bad and not have morals, but I definitely did some things I'm not proud of for sure. Um, but I met a lot of good people out there too, and I always tried not to like hurt anybody or do any bad. I got helped by a lot of Christian folks out on the road, a lot of them, and I always appreciated it, and I always tried to not be offensive to them. A lot of kindness from Christians, though, and it was good to see. That's, I guess, one of the things that kind of drew me in the first place. I saw how like giving and kind they could be without asking for anything in return. I wish more people were like that. I think that's how people should be. In this world, well, a lot of people are motivated by financial gain and material objects and stuff. And I got to see another side, living without most material objects and without really money, relying on the kindness of strangers, to get by. And it's kind of weird. I've got things now, and it's nice to have things. You should definitely acquire stuff. Things that are nice and make you happy. But really, they're not that important. You can do without them. Sorry, I'm not the best public speaker.
You're doing fine.
How did you get on a train?
I waited till it stopped. A lot of people think we just run up and jump on them while they're moving. Some people do. It's called catching on the fly, but it's not a good idea. I actually met a guy. He went by the name Dice. He was missing an arm on one side of his body and a leg on the other. Still traveling. But that's the kind of stuff that happens if you're not careful getting on a train. And I don't recommend it for anybody, that kind of hears it and thinks it would be cool to do. It's pretty fun, but it's really dangerous. And there's a lot of little things you need to know if you're going to do it. I was taken under somebody's wing, and that's the way, if anyone was riding, that's what they should do. A lot of people get killed out there on the trains. They don't stop. They don't know you're there if you're doing it right. They're really heavy, have a lot of force behind them. You just want to stay away from the trains. Actually, when I proposed to my wife, we were on a train. It was her first ride. We met on Facebook, of all places. I had a phone, and I rarely had service on it because, the beer and the cigarettes were more important in the day. And you don't make a whole lot of money when you're out there, a homeless traveler. I used to sleep under bridges in my sleeping bag or in fields or squats. I found a really cool bowling alley squat out in somewhere in Southern California. It was an abandoned bowling alley. And all the pins and the balls were still in there, and me and my friend were squatting in there for like a week or so. And the lanes were uneven and weird, but we would go bowling. It was kind of cool. It was like extreme bowling. A preacher actually helped us get out of that town. We were stuck there, and he gave us a ride and $20. And was talking about his experiences. He was in a gang before he became a preacher. So I guess he gave me his testimony before I really even knew what testimony was. A lot of little things have happened in life, like I guess lead me down this road. A lot of little tiny things that you don't really think about while it's going on. Just I guess that's how God usually works. And, there's like really big miracles every now and then, but generally, I think He just gives you little shoves in the direction that you're supposed to go in. Stuff that if you're not really paying attention, you don't even realize what it is. And that's what happened to me, like a series of a whole lot of little shoves for a long time. But me and Patty met on Facebook, and I was all the way in California, and we were both not in the best of circumstances and stuff. I started making my way toward where she was, and then stuff happened, and I ended up going back to West Virginia and living in a commune for a while, just a really small commune. If anyone doesn't know what a commune is, it's a place where people live and work and share stuff. It's like it's a different kind of societal system, really, than what we're used to in the regular world or whatever. It was a skateboard commune. I used to like to skateboard a lot. I don't really anymore because it's getting a little bit older. I broke my ankle in a skateboarding accident, so I haven't really skated that much since then. But it was fun, and back then I was still drinking every day, and I was in a band. We were playing shows at the commune. We went on a tour with some of the other bands that were in the scene. We actually got kind of big for what we were, acoustic punk rock. But Patty ended up coming down there. We met up, and then things kind of went south at the commune, because that's one of the things about communal living is and it's a little too emotional, I want to say, fueled by emotions. There's a lot of drama involved in communal living a lot of the time, and we ended up taking off, going to one of her friends' places and staying for a little bit, and then she had a friend named Scott, and he became my friend too, but he ended up coming out, and then we started riding around in his van, doing the traveling thing again, and we ended up getting ditched by him, which wasn't very fun. My guitar was in there, so I had to start flying signs to make money, which I'd rather busk. Busking is what they call it when you're street performing of any kind. So, we traveled together for a while, and I put her on her first freight train, and that's where I proposed to her, in the middle of nowhere, because the trains go everywhere, far away from civilization. It's really beautiful at night when the stars are all shining and there's no lights, blurring everything out, and you're in the middle of these woods, or on these mountains, or places where there are no roads. The train tracks are the only things that go through there. You see a lot of beautiful stuff there, and it was a beautiful night. We got drunk. But that's the life of riding trains. It was bad too. I'm lucky. God took away my alcoholism, I guess. A lot of people, they can't really be around alcohol. I can drink a couple beers now and stop and not want anymore. But back then I drank, like I said, every day. If I didn't drink, I would be all shaky and weak, dry heaving. I'd puke if I tried to eat. It was kind of rough. But I stayed drunk, so it didn't really bother me. So anyways, me and Patty traveled for a while, and a lot of things happened. We were stuck in Colorado for a while, which is not a good place to be when you're homeless, because they had the boom there. I think the marijuana boom brought in a bunch of people that were planning on just moving there and trying to get, jobs and live there and be able to smoke pot legally and stuff. But a lot of those people, I think, ended up on the streets and then getting into harder drugs. So there's a lot of homeless there, and they're all into like hard drugs. So people don't really want to help like the homeless people there. And it's like homeless people and then like, rich people. The divide there between classes is pretty hardcore. We weren't making a lot of money there. We were stuck. Patty was having troubles with her foot and her knee, I think, too. Yeah. And then the strap of my backpack broke, which doesn't sound that bad, but when you're carrying around like 80 pounds of stuff, it's kind of rough. And again, we were just getting really drunk. We were pretty bad at that point in time. We were drinking at least a half gallon of cheap rot gut liquor a day. Yeah, it was pretty rough. Blacking out like every night. But we actually a church helped us to get out of there. A really cool church. They were really nice, and they were doing a lot to help the homeless people out there. I remember the time we went there, it was just getting cold, and it was turning like winter time, and they had like all the homeless people there for like a big meal, and then they had really nice like backpacks with like sleeping bags in them and stuff, like nice like cold weather ones, and they were like passing them out to all of them, and they had like bicycles they were giving to the homeless, and they were obviously like well funded, but all that money was going back to the people that needed it and stuff. Kind of like how the Victory Center does, like, and that's definitely that's what God wants, like to help people however you can. This place does a really good job of doing that, and I really appreciate it because this is the place that really brought me into Christianity. Patty was a Christian, and I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't mean. I wasn't a cruel person, so I thought I had it all figured out. I didn't believe in anything. I thought, I was intelligent and like well informed and stuff, but I didn't want to like try to argue with her about it or anything. I didn't want to. If somebody had that faith, like, oh, they know they're going to go to heaven, why would you take that away from them? You know what I mean? I'm really glad I have that now, though. I used to be so afraid of death. It was like the final thing, and there was nothing after that. But there is, so thank God for that. There were plenty of nights where I just stayed awake, just worrying about my own mortality. And I don't really have to do that anymore. So, we ended up getting here with our packs and our sleeping bags and a couple pairs of filthy clothes. And Patty ended up bringing me down here, and I thought it was a nice place. People were nice. I enjoyed the atmosphere a lot, and I think the atmosphere is part of what like drew me in too. I could kind of, I guess, like feel God's presence here at the Victory Center, and I didn't know it was God's presence at the time. I just thought it was a really good atmosphere, but it was a subtle change to bring me to God. It wasn't like some crazy, like revelation. I guess for me, God's always just worked in like small increments, slowly and steadily, and that's how my faith became a thing and then grew. It was like a slow, gradual thing that I didn't even like really realize was going on, until it happened and I realized it. So, I pray every morning and every night before I eat, and just random times sometimes. I still get anxiety, but it's gotten a lot better. and I'll pray whenever I'm getting anxiety, like really bad, and it helps. Trying to think. Me and Patty, we ended up getting married on a Halloween. It was a really small ceremony, not many people came, which is what we wanted, you know. We're not all for, like, you know, consumerism and materialism and all of that stuff, you know, because we live a lot of our lives without that. Our backpacks turned into an apartment and then a trailer, and our sleeping bags turned into a futon and now a queen-size bed, you know. Our 2 pairs of filthy clothes turned into wardrobes of clothing. We have everything we need, you know, food, water, housing, clothing. We have more than we need, actually. We have Malachi, a wonderful son. We have 2 wonderful animals, a cat and a dog. And I don't know, it's all thanks to God. I never really wanted that stuff, you know, before. I was perfectly content to travel around and drink and play music and sleep in a sleeping bag. I had some stories I was going to tell to illustrate, you know, how things were out there. But there are some children present, so I you know, it's really not the best idea, I guess. But things can be pretty rough out there.
How did you guys eat food?
Well, you know, it would depend. A lot of people out there will, you know, eat out of the trash cans and dumpsters, which I've done before. I'm not a fan of it. You know, I'd rather not do that. I get made fun of it, though. So that's something about train riders. A lot of the train riders are elitist, you know. They think, like, you know, oh, I ride freight trains, so I'm better than every other homeless person. But, so, like, yeah, you get made fun of if you didn't want to, like, eat out of the trash. We ended up, I would try to get food stamps, you know, whenever I was in a state that was easy to get food stamps at. This is one of those states. Oregon, really easy state to get food stamps. You know, you just go in and tell them you're completely homeless, and then, you know, give them the name of a shelter as a mailing address, and then they'll give you the emergency card right then. Then you'll have food stamps for a few months. You know, there's little tricks that you pick up. Like, if you know, sit outside a fast food place, you'll still get money kickdowns, but, you know, you'll also get food kickdowns usually. You never really have to buy food. You know, all that money can go to booze, because people will give you food. I guess that's why they say, you know, like, when you talk about homeless people, you know, usually give them food or, you know, something like that. Although I will say, as a former, you know, homeless person, sometimes they really do, sometimes their vices really help out. It can be really depressing out there and really rough. And people that are addicted to something, if they don't get it, it's just going to make their day worse, way worse, and they'll eventually get it. That's just my thoughts on it, you know, and different people have different thoughts on it. But if I see a guy out on the street shaking because he doesn't have a beer, I'm going to buy him a beer. You know, I don't want people to go through stuff that can be prevented, and I've been there. It's pretty rough, and, you know, it didn't make me quit because I didn't have anything to drink that day. It made me want to drink even more.
So how did you totally become clean? Did you have to go to detox centers?
No, I didn't do anything like that. I weaned myself down, honestly. You know, went from half gallons of liquor to, like, kind of cut down on that a little bit, and then I went to, like, tall cans of you know, 8% malt liquor stuff, you know, and like I weaned myself down to like 1 can of that, and then I got down to like a couple just regular beers, and then I quit. It was rough the whole time, but not as bad as just like quitting cold turkey. And it's dangerous for an alcoholic to quit cold turkey. It can cause seizures, and people even die from it. So that's another thing to think about too. Like those people shaking and because they don't have anything to drink, it can be deadly.
And the motivation to do that was
I guess it was a mixture. My motivation to do that was I think God was just telling me to do it. Because like I said before, I loved drinking, and I would drink every day, and I enjoyed my life like that, kind of as much as you can enjoy your life without God in it, But then I don't know. I thought it was wrong. I was not going to go in the right direction if I kept drinking. We started getting our stuff together, and doing better, and that was God. And I felt like we couldn't do any better at all if we didn't quit drinking. It was definitely we started to realize like how much it really was hindering us, in life, and it made certain things worse, for sure. Well, it made a lot of things worse, honestly, but we both quit pretty much at the same time. And I really missed it for a long time. And that's, like all I wanted to do. I was like, man, I really want to drink. And then I got to the point, I used to think that I couldn't have any fun, or really have a good time or anything if I wasn't drinking. And then one day I had a good time sober, and I was like, wow, I can have a good time sober. And it was really good time because when I came to that realization, it just made me even happier. I don't need to drink to have a good time, And then I won't lie, video games kind of helped me a little bit. It got my mind off of wanting to drink and not feeling good. Reading helps. And then I got a real legitimate job. I've been working at KFC for 3 years now. I started going to school for audio production. It's going to be a bachelor's of science degree. Doing pretty good. I did terrible in high school because from a young age I was I guess not making the right decisions. When I was growing up, when I was a little kid, we went to Baptist church, and I was a complete believer. But then my mom passed away when I was 7, and I think that's one of the things that started I started losing my religion, right around that time, and I went through this long phase of being afraid that I was going to go to hell, but not believing enough to believe, if that makes any sense. That was a really bad time. And then I finally was just completely non-religious. And then growing up, I got into punk rock. So that was all about drinking and partying and overthrowing the government, teenage angst and whatnot. But started playing punk rock bands and getting drunk and playing shows, and then I ended up going to the Marine Corps on a whim. Me and one of my friends were sniffing Adderall and partying all night, and he ended up talking me into joining the Marine Corps that night. And so we went to the recruiter's office, and they're like, oh, so on the way there, we were driving, we hadn't slept at all. We thought we were coming down from that, so we bought these black jacket pills that were diet pills. Yeah, but I don't know, those things were crazy. And so, you know, we took those, and then we drank a few cups of coffee, and so it was crazy. On the way there, you know, we kept seeing stuff out of the corners of our eyes and everything driving. We got there, and we had to do, the recruiter wanted us to do the 3-mile run, and that almost killed me. I think probably literally it almost killed me. But that was rough. That was a rough night. But we ended up going in, you know, went to boot camp at Paris Island. We went in on the buddy program, which means we went to boot camp together, and we went through combat training together. And then we got lucky, both got jobs in communications. He was a wire dog. He ran like wires and stuff for communications, and I ended up being well, basically like a electronics repair person, radio repair. So we both went to 29 Palms, California, to do our schooling, because that was a communications electronics school. So he was only there for like 6 months or so. I was there for a year because my job had more training required. And then he ended up going to Okinawa, Japan, Camp Kinzer, and that's where I ended up going. So that was really cool. I had a lot of fun in the Marine Corps. You know, I kind of like, I sobered up and I quit doing drugs and stuff, but then I got back into like alcohol like near the end of the enlistment. You kind of get bitter a little bit. I was my unit wasn't, it kind of sucked, you know. not gonna you know, sugarcoat it. A lot of the leadership cared about the mission more than the Marines, you know. And I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea. I wasn't in a combat MOS, you know, and I wasn't deployed into combat. So, you know, I don't want you guys to think that. I ended up getting deployed onto the Marine Expeditionary Unit. So we went around and, you know, trained for like humanitarian stuff, and we, you know, we would like teach other like countries like police forces or militaries or what have you, like, you know, skills. And, you know, we did communications between, like, the ship and the op sites. And we were there for Operation Tomodachi, which was that, like, earthquake and tsunami that hit. I was actually in the radiation zone of the Fukushima reactor whenever that thing blew. I had to go up on ship, on like, deck for, like, a resupply thing. We had to hold, like, these lines, like, between the two ships. And they gave us gas masks to put on and said that would like help keep us safe. So maybe like 20 or 30 years from now, I'll be part of one of those class action lawsuits, you know. But you know, but then I got recalled back to my parent unit, which was the unit that wasn't very good. If I would have stayed on the MEU, I might have re-enlisted actually. But I got recalled back to the old unit. And I started going down to the E Club and drinking every night. I was one of those, you know, people that were always at the bar every night after work, and I'd be there till like 3 in the morning, and then we'd have like PT at like 5. You know, it was, PT is the physical training. Every morning we had to go like run, you know, for miles and do pull-ups and push-ups and sit-ups and 8-count bodybuilders and all that really fun stuff. I mean, Don would probably think it was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then when I got out of the Marine Corps, I thought I was going to get a good job and stuff, and I applied to a few places, but the motivation wore thin really quickly. Didn't really get anything. You know, I was back in Parkersburg, West Virginia for one. It's not a really good place to find jobs, but it was my hometown. And I started drinking with my friends there, and I ended up being on unemployment until it ran out. Just drinking every day. That's when my drinking really started every day. On the unemployment, I didn't have to work or anything. Everyone would come over and party, you know, and I'd always buy at least like a 30 rack and like a bottle of Evan Williams or something, and I'd buy the food. Me and Skylar would play music, and everybody would like come over and hang out and party. After that ran out, nobody would come over. And then like when I was homeless, nobody wanted to help me out. Like right after that, so most of those people were just around for the free booze, I guess. So that's another thing about going down that road is a lot of people are around you just because you have booze or for other people I guess drugs. A lot of people use you for that, or they want to be around you because they know that like they could throw in with you to get what they want, or like you're more liable to get what you want if you're hanging out with other people that are into that stuff. It's hard to find real friends when you're doing that. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. The point, I guess, of the story, or series of stories, or whatever you call it, is, even if you don't realize it, like, God's moving things and, putting things into motion that might not even take effect for years and years, and it all fits together in, like, some weird, intricate puzzle that you can't even really understand, and like maybe someday in the future you can take a step back and like see what it was all about, As a traveler, I really learned a lot of about humbleness and humility, and charity, that I wouldn't have really learned, had I not gone through that. In the Marine Corps, I learned about discipline, if I would have tried to go to college right out of high school, I'm sure I would have failed. I didn't do very good in school because I didn't really care. Now I'm 29 years old, and I'm going to college for something I really want to do, and it's free because I went through the Marine Corps, and things are going well. Like God's taken me through a lot of crazy places, taught me a lot of crazy things that a lot of people, haven't experienced. And I guess now, like, He's given me a chance to try to share a little bit of what I learned through it all. My life is great now, a loving wife, a wonderful son, 2 amazing animals. I've been working the same job for 3 years, and it's a pretty decent job. I like it. I'm going to college right now, and I'm planning on moving on to bigger and better things after that. And I found God. Like, things are good now. So no matter where anybody's at in life, what they're doing, what they've done, things can always just pull a 180. I guess that's it.
Anybody have questions?
I have a question. When did you first know you were going to marry your wife?
Train ride.
Probably after she said yes.
Well, that's a hard one.
I remember we were
Yeah.
talking about it before we even met each other.
Yeah, we were. And back in the day, I didn't even think I was going to get married. But something about this woman just completely changed my mind. I didn't really believe in marriage back in the day, It goes back to, back when I was an atheist and I was against the establishment. And so, marriage was kind of against what I was trying to be about. You know what I mean? But I knew that Patty was, the one, and I wanted to be with her forever. That was kind of I don't know, it was a mixture between a gradual and a quick change. It's hard to pinpoint the exact time. I just realized one day that I wanted to be with her forever. And then once I started, becoming a Christian, marriage, you have to. I mean, it's literally, something you have to do. And I was always worried that, you know, in this society, we're taught that marriage is a bad thing a lot of the times. You know, like that marriage will ruin your relationship, and it'll, you know, take the magic out of it, and you know, all that crap. And I use the word crap because it is. You know, like I love her even more than I did back then, if that's even possible.
How long have you
Yes,
been
Don.
together?
This isn't a question, it's just a statement, but, first of all, I think you answered that very, very well. That was a good answer. I think she's pleased. But, and I'm sitting behind her and I think she is. But the second thing is that in this testimony a few times, you've said, you know, and then I found God, I found God. The fact is, God was not lost. He found you, right? He's been preparing the way all this time. He found you. He went after you. You were the one left behind, and he came after you. And so just, you know, and that really is a great testimony.
And the nudging is God's wooing, because he loves you that much. So all that nudging along the way and the Christians in your life, it was God.
I mean, he definitely spent a lot of years doing that.
How long have you been married?
Well, we got married on Halloween. It's been a couple years now. Yeah. It's, what is today? Today is,
25th.
it's still August, right?
Yeah,
25th.
So, just about, I guess about 2 months out, huh? It doesn't seem like it. It's really flown by.
I just want to say one other thing, back to the original point. You know, the God nudging you. You know, he knew you. He knew you were anti-establishment, and that he's not going to come in and like just drag you by your feet. He knew you would have resisted all of that, right?
Very true.
So he really did this and set a stage because he knew you and he loved you, and that is so cool. I would expect him to do that in your life.
I'm the train riding. Did you get on trains and experience a change of seasons, like from south to north and that sort of thing? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, it got kind of rough. My first train ride was in May, and it was out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I was wearing shorts, a sleeveless shirt, and like slip-on Vans. And you know, it was nice and warm. We got on the train, and then it got really cold later on. Really cold, like terribly cold. You know, I was wrapped up in my sleeping bag, and it didn't really help. Like there were 4 of us there, and like we were just like cuddling with each other because it was so cold. It was intense, you know. The first time it stopped, we didn't care where we were at or anything. We just jumped off. You know, we were done with it. We were riding what's called dirty face, which is on the front of a car. Grainer porch, which is the grainers are, well, they're grain cars. They're the ones that have those little, they call them nipples on the bottom. It's like a car with a porch on each side, and then they're like bumps on the bottom. If you guys know what I'm talking about. So, and there's, you know, many different variants of it. There's suicide, which means the porches don't have a floor. There's, you know, there's like the high walls where they have walls so you can be hidden. You know, there's a lot of different variants of the different train cars. And but we were riding dirty face, so the wind was blowing right on us the whole way, and it got cold. We ended up in Louisville, Kentucky, during the Kentucky Derby of all times. It was a pretty crazy time. And the mountain passes can get rough too.
Yes, sir.
Jesse, right? Unbelievable testimony. And one more question, if I can speak. I will. Everybody probably knows who you are. Nobody knows who I am.
You want this?
Sure. I'm legally blind, so I can't touch any books. I just touch the world. So against Mom's request, I'm speaking. Been around the United States about a dozen times. I could talk from now till tomorrow and beyond. Not gonna do that. Happy to be here today. Thank you for all. Thank you, Lord, for bringing me to this spot. I was in the church at a young age. I believe I got saved at 13. Took me till I was 50 to realize that he's still there. Always will be. Always has been. So he pulled me through a few passes, cold, warm, wet, dry. Every single one of them brought me here. My best friend is Mom, beside Jesus. I have more to say later, but I get nervous, I start crying. I'm not gonna smoke a cigarette like the music. Thanks, Tessie.
Thank you. All right, anything else?
I have a quick question, but it's really for Bill, not for you.
Perfect.
Are you asking all these questions about trains because that's your next plan for us? Or what?
I'm not.
Oh, okay, just checking.
It's just it's intriguing to me, like how people do that and stuff, and how they survive. So that's all. That's the reason for asking.
That's his next journey there.
It's your next move, Bill. It's okay.
All
He's
right.
gonna get to Florida one way or another.
All right. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jesse, for an amazing testimony. So with Jesse's permission, his testimony will be up on the Victory Facebook page, and it will be up on YouTube. Please watch. That was wonderful. And remember, anyone can do their testimony here. Right?